Hello and welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Schultz, and tonight I am joined by my good buddy, Clinton Bonner. And we've got people in the chat joining us live for the post-game. Ryan 911 saying, MOB is good all the time. And it is all the time that the MOB is good. Clinton?
It is. It just turns out that sometimes your third and fourth stringers aren't exactly great, and that wasn't the most exciting Seahawks football game. But that's okay because it's game one of the preseason. It's August 15th, and Brandon, when the closer to starters were in, we looked okay. We looked darn good when the closer to starters were. We were up 7-0 early. In fact, Brandon.
Yes, up 7-0 early, and then I tuned out. So we'll just pretend that's all we saw. But we also have a special guest joining us tonight. It is Mookie Alexander of Field Gulls. It's been a while, Mookie. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be on. It's great to have Seahawks football back, no matter how tedious a watch that was. But it just means that you do another check mark. Okay, that's one down, 2 to go, roster cuts, and then boom. Wednesday, September 9th, the real thing happens. I can assure you that the dudes who are out there playing, about 80 to 90% of them will not be even on the roster come week one.
Yeah, especially after halftime, you get to watch it and you're going, oh man, just our defense is getting run over. And then you realize, okay, well, a lot of these guys aren't going to be on the Seahawks defense when we kick it off against the Patriots for week one. And really, I think the story of the game, Clinton,
you have
penalties.
Oh, yeah.
Because I did the Control F on my play-by-play sheet here. 27 called penalties.
Wow.
And some of those were declined, obviously, but 27 called penalties between the Cowboys and Seahawks. So a sloppy game, Mookie, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, very sloppy. And in certain areas, it's sloppy to a point where you go, that person is probably not making the roster. And I'm talking about somebody like Logan Brown, who I think had 4 penalties tonight.
Woof.
And I mean, when I was at camp last week, he had 2 false starts, even at the one practice I saw at VMAC. So I think and they were both false starts. So that's been an issue for him. Even though he looked better than Amari Kites from the camps that I saw, that's not saying a whole lot when you consider the performances of the second and third string offensive line. Just some undisciplined penalties on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. Shamar John Charles, I think will make it a very easy decision as far as who gets let go when Terrion Arnold gets signed. And really, like, John Charles was always going to be a long shot to make the roster, but he made sure that that long shot disappeared lickety-split. So I think that's, of course, game result doesn't matter. There's no game plan, anything like that. I don't think Macdonald's going to be happy with the ugliness and the disjointed nature of this particular game because we were there last preseason. We watched all the games, and for the most part, they were a lot cleaner than this. So no reason to panic, but it does put into perspective the gap you see between the top guys, the ones who are going to be playing on Sundays every week, and then the ones who are just trying to make the roster.
Okay, Clinton, but here's the thing. I can handle some false start penalties. Like, we get those every game. Some defensive holding or some hands to the face. That's fine. We had dudes at wide receiver just lining up into the neutral zone and wide receivers false starting. And it's those ones. It's like, it's preseason, but I don't even want to see those in the preseason.
There was one on Cody White too, which I don't think he actually moved. He certainly didn't seem like he thought he moved. Coming back to the sideline, they called it on him.
Well, Cody White also thought he caught one of those passes that he dropped.
Yes, he did. Hey, look, you got to try, right? But look, the first drive, it looked pretty clean. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Drew Lock looked good, because it doesn't really matter. But Drew Lock things in the first drive. But the first drive also gave you Halani with a couple of nice runs, getting to the edges, nice blocks on the interior. Then there was a really nice play to Arroyo on that first drive where it was a little play action to Halani, quick hit over the middle to Arroyo, really in stride. And you start to get the sense of what the Fleury offense wants to go do. So while the totality was very sloppy and messy, and then once we got into the third and fourth quarter, we really were getting run over. We just that part's ugly and not fun. I really would like to focus more on the first part of what we saw there. And that looked pretty smooth. So from a Fleury perspective, guys, I could take a little bit of a little bit out of this and be like, okay, I think I see what Fleury was attempting to do. And this is game one, training wheel still on, not giving away everything. But Brandon, that part looked pretty good to me. 7-0 early. I like that.
Yeah, let's go back to the first drive here in a second. And we've got Ryan 911 coming in with a super chat of $9.99.
Nice.
Fun to watch Seahawks football again. Very fun, and appreciate you executive producering the show, Ryan. Carly Perkins also in at $4.99. I didn't catch most of the game, but Spoon got paid. So glad we could take care of my boy, and we're one step closer to real football again. We're going to get to talking to some Spoon too, but going to this first drive, Mookie, how did you feel about it? Because the last throw, the touchdown pass by Locke, great throw.
Oh, yeah.
You referenced the pass to Arroyo that was kind of set up with. You saw a couple similar guard pulling type plays that were run plays, and then they build off of that and run that same type of guard pull, but then it's the pass to Arroyo. But really, when you look too at the box score, Drew Lock 9 of 13, 40 yards. Mookie, that's a little over, or what, 3 yards per attempt. So maybe not a good day overall, but we got to see a couple nice throws by Lock.
Yeah, they were pretty much all in the first drive, because I would say after that he was not sharp. I think it was a little worse than the 9 of 13, which indicates the 40 yards definitely justified. Given some of the misses he had a bad miss to Bobo over the middle, and then he overshot a wide open Montori Foster. And I think that would have been a big play. That was early in the third quarter. But that touchdown to Foster was a nice throw.
Yeah.
And it was also a great play by Foster, because he's barely out of his break, running a little post there and then coming back. And by the time he has to turn around, the ball's on him and he's able to get it. And I know Foster had a drop, and then I think he had a penalty also, but who didn't really in the second half. But if the Seahawks are going to stash 6 receivers, if they're going to roster 6 guys, and we already know who the top 5 are, I think Montori Foster might be in that mix with Cody White. I'd say Ricky White is now below Foster, because you notice Foster was out there before Ricky was.
Right.
And Foster, I'm kind of wondering, are they willing to expose him to waivers? Because one thing that we always freak out about every year is, oh man, that guy's going to get claimed, this guy's going to get claimed. And very, very few players actually get claimed during cut down day.
Right.
The one thing that kind of complicates that for the Seahawks is that they've got a guy in Minnesota named Nolan Teasley, who might be watching whatever the Seahawks are doing. So you've got Minnesota, you got Carolina, maybe you have Las Vegas. So those would be 3 teams you could think of who could possibly look to get in on some Seahawks talent.
And the Niners, maybe.
It's possible. Yeah, it is very possible that happens. But like, if Foster doesn't make the team, I think he clears waivers immediately to the practice squad. Alternatively, he makes the roster. You waive Cody White. Cody White clears waivers all the time, and he goes to the practice squad. And that might be what they're willing to do, just to have a young guy on the team. And I'm happy for Foster, given he goes from substitute teacher to maybe an NFL Week 1 player. We'll see how it goes.
I hate how they put in those stories too, because then you're like, oh, I definitely have to root for the guy. And Daniel Smith in chat saying, yes, the Raiders would claim him. Montori Foster finishes the night. 5 catches, 36 yards. Right behind him, Jake Bobo, 3 catches, 13 yards. And then yardage-wise, the only guy that would follow him up. Velus Jones had 2 catches for -5. So maybe that's why Drew Lock's hurting a little bit there too. And Elijah Arroyo with 1 catch for 12 yards. Looking at the quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe, 5 of 8, 36 yards. And but he had some rushing stats. He had 5 carries on 36 yards. So Clinton,
yes.
We'll go to you in a second. Check out Yokai Hawk here with the 1707 yen. Appreciate that, Yokai Hawk. Nice. Is there any way we can assess Fleury's play calling regardless of the execution? So let's go there. Though execution is kind of his responsibility too. Clinton, it seems to me that I really go more off of that first drive, because those are the scripted plays. And then I don't know if there's much we can take away from it too, because part of it was offensive line, part of it was penalties. And part of it too, we're going for it on 4th down in situations that maybe we wouldn't necessarily be going for it on 4th down. If we got a turnover inside the 5-yard line and just run 3 straight times twice to the outside, one up the middle that gets stuffed, and then they go for it on 4th down again. Would that series be called a little bit differently late in the game? That's tough to say, but what do you take away play calling wise?
So I do think your points are good there. First and foremost, Myers misses a chip shot, doesn't typically do that, right? So that's points off the board. And then we're going stuff on 4th and 4 and things of that nature, which during the season you're just not typically doing that, which is fine. You trot Myers out there. Last year he broke LT's record for most points ever scored, and you just go get your points. The first 2 drives, the first time Milroe was in, that was a promising drive too. Seattle was so good last year that when they did have the occasional 5-yard penalty, they were also really clean last year a lot, but they were very good last year that they didn't allow like a 5-yard penalty to just automatically derail a drive. A couple of years ago, maybe year 1, Mike Macdonald, and certainly the end of the Pete Carroll era, drives would get derailed all the time with like a little false start. It's like, okay, well, they just might as well not play, might as well punt on 2nd down. That kind of happened today, where the start of some of the other drives were promising, and then there's a negative play and they just couldn't get out of that their own way. That's okay. They will work those kinks out. I think the early stuff that was running the football looked promising, and we know, but look, I think Sam's in line for a quality year, maybe even a very, very good year. We'll see. Of course, he's getting the glow up with the 21st ranking at NFL 100, and of course, what's happening on Hard Knocks. But this team's going to run the football, so I think it was promising early there, and some of the backup guards and tackles on the first couple of drives looked pretty good. Until it didn't. So those are the things that I could take away and say, hey, early in the game, we look pretty competent. One thing before I'll pass to Mookie in a sec, but I thought Milroe was okay. And where I realized Drew Lock's line of 9 of 13, not that many yards, but he did have that big pass on the sideline that drew a PI. I think that was Foster also. I believe that was also Foster, who gets held for a big PI play. So doesn't count in the stat line, but the chunk is a chunk. Milroe, to me, it takes 3 sacks, still had a fumble himself that he recovered, hungry hippo style, but he still seemed a little rushed to me. But he also, Mookie, I'm not sure if you could pick apart anything from Milroe besides a little rushed, looked pretty good, but seemed to also still want to kind of go run the football a bit more than maybe escape and make a play, or did he just not have enough time? What did you see, Mookie?
Well, first thing, the long throw that drew the PI was to Cody White, I believe.
Cody, okay, cool.
I think there was the throw before that. Bobo got blatantly interfered with and still hung on for the catch, but that was a very risky throw from Locke. I thought Milroe was fine the first drive. Of course, he was able to use his legs. That little improvised throw to Bobo to complete a 4th down, only to be nullified by the Amari Kite holding penalty.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't take away from how good the play was, so we can see him be creative there. When it was a quick pass, I think he was accurate, whether it was that throw to Callerup or the throw over in the middle to Bobo on a 3rd down. So, I mean, there were some good things as far as Milroe's quick decision-making, but once it became like under center, deep drop type of concepts, it felt like he was kind of betwixt and between as far as, should I run now? Because that was kind of the thing last year. It's like, as soon as the first read's not open, he's going to bail. And you don't want to be doing that in the long term if you want to be a viable starting quarterback in this league. So I think there were actually some opportunities Milroe could have taken off sooner, and he ended up just getting sacked. Pass pro was very poor from the second and third team, especially from the tackles. Like Brown and Kite and Hart, those 3 were brutal. And then Bo Stevens had he had some good moments, mainly in the run blocking, but in pass pro, I don't think he held up all that consistently. So I don't think it was a great night for Milroe. All in all, but we'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. I think it's just a baby steps thing. That the good news is we are seeing him at least run with the second team offense, and we are seeing him at least in there with Bobo and Elijah Arroyo and handing the ball off to George Holani. So everybody I just mentioned now, those guys are going to be on the roster. So we'll see how it goes next week and the week after. Yokai Hawk asked, was it Olu for the Milroe fumble? I haven't gone back to look at that play.
I think that was his very first snap under center, and Milroe didn't have a ton of snaps under center. I think when they went and most of the other ones are run plays. So
Yeah. So, but if as far as Milroe just having this amazing preseason out of the gate, I think maybe that's what fans were kind of hoping for. That he was able to just spin it, throw some deep shots, be aggressive. But the preseason is still young. We got 2 other games to go.
Yeah. And one quick thing too is I do want to say for folks that might be thinking that I'm coming down a little hard on Milroe too. It's like, I think he played markedly better than last year too. Like there was sincere improvement. There was just still a little bit left on the bone there, like you were pointing out there, Mookie.
We've got BMW 22 ounce in chat saying, you guys are awesome. Thanks for all the content. So happy it's Seahawks season again. Looking forward to another great year with the Seahawkers. Oh yeah. For the record, Adam is awesome. Appreciate that. And the $9.99 super chat, BMW 22.
Thank you. Awesome.
I see people putting in chat all the places that is hiring for Milroe. I don't know why you would give up on Jalen Milroe, a 3rd round pick, after the first game in the second preseason. I think it's a little bit early to be doing that, Mookie, despite how it wasn't great, but I didn't think it was terrible either.
No, I think some of the sacks might not have been great in terms of Milroe being able to escape pressure. I will say when he's running along the sideline, I mean, that scramble he had on 3rd and 11, you can see the speed at times. And then there are other points. In other words, like his speed is different depending on which direction he's actually running. And that can get him into trouble at times when he's trying to scramble, like on that 4th and goal sack of the 1, he's trying to do the Russ spinorama and he's unable to get free. That is definitely a play call that I'm 100% sure under no circumstances Brian Fleury would run with Sam Darnold in the first team offense. Maybe would even run it with the lock in the second team offense. So we don't really glean too much from what Fleury did as far as play calling here, especially the deeper into the game you get. Kind of game strategy goes out the window. You're just doing whatever to assess your quarterback, your line, your receivers, all that. But let's pump the brakes on Milroe and wanting to send him out to FedEx or Arby's and all these other lovely places that definitely need employment. But I think Milroe is above that. But yeah, just be patient. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. He is a 3rd round pick. He's not a 1st round pick challenging for Sam Darnold's job. The only thing that I was looking to see with Milroe in preseason is, can he be a guy you can actually have active on game day? Not immediately replace Drew Lock right now, but is he a guy for whom you can actually do a package for and, not have it be as catastrophic as last year? Jury's still out on that front, but if he shows some more development over the next couple of weeks, then maybe you can go, all right, we can have Milroe in the game occasionally, and he's actually a threat to pass. If he's not a threat to pass over these next couple of weeks and the coaching staff doesn't trust him, then you just keep Milroe inactive most times like they did last year.
Well, and I think we as fans got a little bit hyped up with some of the reports that we heard that, it's really Jalen Milroe and Drew Lock. They're really going to be competing for quarterback number 2. And when you start to hear that, then you're, maybe he has developed to the point to where he's going to push Drew Lock, and maybe you can move Drew Lock for picks and keep 2 quarterbacks and still be fine. But yeah, if we go just the way that, from what we've seen from week 1, I'm okay with Sam Darnold having 2 competent backups behind him and Drew Lock being the one that is the next one to be up, Clint.
Yeah, no, I am as well. And I don't know if there's much else on the offensive side of the ball, guys. I mean, I just don't think there was a ton there that you could pick apart. I think Velus Jones he's fast. He gets to the outside pretty quickly. And I think he could do some good work. But besides that, again, Halani looked the part to me. Actually, when Justin Jones, who got that 1 carry at the goal line late in the game, he looked pretty good. He didn't quite get into the end zone, and we did not convert on that play.
We got to see a nice Lampy fullback.
Yes, there you go. That's a good call out, right? So just trying to find a couple more bright moments from the offense. Lampy did lay a guy out. It was that very play. So you really do want to see the running back able to just punch it in at that point. But I think it was a nice tackle that was made. But Lampy he blew a guy up. So that was kind of cool to see as well. I don't know if there was other stuff on the offensive side that I could dig into with confidence and say, I
feel like we pretty much expired the offensive.
Yeah, I guess the only other way we could talk is like offensive linemen. The announcers were like glowing up Bo Stevens. And as soon as they glowed up Bo Stevens, he kind of took a kind of got off balance, took a stab, and then ended up with a pretty bad holding penalty. But Mookie, any other dudes across the offensive line that you thought, you talked about guys that didn't perform too well. Anybody stand out in the offensive line that played at least pretty good?
Nothing that immediately jumped out to me. I will say it's kind of ominous for Bryce Cabledew to be that deep into the game, and then he gets in with the third team. So if that persists over these next couple of weeks, it's possible Cabledew is on the bubble.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because Bo Stevens is somebody you traded up in the draft for. You give up some capital next year to acquire. And Stevens had been with the third team pretty much all of camp, but he got in with the second team, if you will, very, very early in this game. And so you got, I will say, Christian Haynes, other than that one looked like bust in pass pro. I don't know if there was supposed to be a double team there and he ends up falling down. Christian Haynes didn't look too bad.
Yeah, I agree.
And really, if for Christian Haynes, it's just make the roster, because these first two seasons had everybody wondering, is his goose cooked already? But it's, by all accounts, he's had a good camp. And at least in limited playing time today, he other than that one rep, he didn't look out of place. So as long as that persists, then you've probably got three guards on this roster, meaning Bradford, Haynes, and Stevens. And then it's kind of up in the air for everybody else. And of course, Sable on the left side. But at right guard, you got those three options.
Yeah. Well, and just the fact that Haynes was out there. He wasn't out there for super long before they went ahead and put Stevens in and gave him some work. So it kind of told you that maybe they didn't need to see a whole lot from Haynes either. We've got Doodaddy in chat saying, give Helani some love, never had a bad play. He was 12 carries, 42 yards. He played quite a bit of the first half, more than I expected, finished with an average of 3.5 yards per carry. I thought he was fine. He makes me more excited that to see Zach Charbonnet back. But
the average wasn't
fine.
great. But
He was okay.
I thought it was pretty good, and again, there wasn't like huge gashing holes either. He had a couple of those plays where, a dude's in the backfield right away, and he's at least getting back to the line of scrimmage or a gain of 1 or 2, where instead of a TFL.
That's and maybe behind the first team offensive line.
Yes,
he can pick up those yards.
There was a couple, and again, that first drive and the second drive, there was a couple of nice 5-yard gains, or like a incomplete pass on first down. They're running on second down, and then we're in 3rd and 5. It's like, okay, that's very acceptable. But nothing, no breakaways, nothing huge like that. But I think Helani is an NFL running back, and actually he very well could be our first series starter this year versus the Patriots in a couple of weeks. That's not out of the realm of possibilities whatsoever.
Yeah, he's anywhere from middle class Charbonnet to rich man's Travis Homer.
That's a very good description. Some highlights on the defensive side of the ball. Tyrese Knight finished with 10 total tackles, 7 solo, 3 assists. He also had a couple passes defensed. Between him and I would say Noah Igbenogany, probably the two guys that stood out to me, Mookie. Maybe a little bit of Mike Moe early on too, Mike Morris.
Yeah, I'd say so. There were a couple of good pass rushing reps from Riley Mills. He didn't immediately jump out today as much as I saw in training camp. And of course, Sam Darnold and Leonard Williams on the broadcast, they were both pumping up how well Riley had been performing this offseason. So I definitely think that Mills still has got plenty of room to grow. And they gave him quite a bit of a workout in the first half. And it was needed because he didn't play many. He played 30 some odd snaps all of last season, even in the few games that he played. So when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, as you said, Tyrese Knight looks really good, and he's going to be hard to keep off the field, as Mike Macdonald said. I can see him added in sub packages, or even maybe going back to rotating him and Drake Thomas at times. And also the fact that you could line him up at edge, I think is something that is worth monitoring. Saw that quite a bit in preseason. Noah Igbenogany did look good. There was that one deep shot to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Igbenogany shut that down immediately. And he also had a nice blitz that forced Howell into a panic throw and a red zone stop. So I thought Igbenogany looked good. As far as other people, Patrick O'Connell, I think he's making a good case to be that 4th linebacker on the depth charts, at least in inside linebacker. And he's been a special teams veteran, but I think he's got a case for making the roster proper instead of being practice squad. And Mike Morris, every year it looks like Mike Morris is on the bubble, and then he ends up being a preseason standout. I will say you can tell it's preseason whenever Mike Morris is an edge, because in actual regular season games, he almost never is.
Right.
And I think that part of it is because if I had to critique this defense, and I've seen it when I was at camp last week and then seeing it tonight, there's just nothing there as far as deep in the depth chart edge rushers. Jalen Gaines, I thought, had a couple of good plays. He had a nice tackle for loss and a pressure would-be sack, but outside of that, it's just too scarce. Connor O'Toole really just got shut down. Aiden Hubbard has been really nothing to write home about. He's been underwhelming, I would say. So, and Jared Ivey is anywhere from a big end to like an interior lineman. So didn't see enough of the pass rush really from the reserves on the defensive line.
No, they struggled to set an edge later on. Even the interior push, there wasn't much there. I did see Devon Eastern on one play had some nice push up the middle, but that was about it. I feel like we're now shifting to a lot more of the negatives on defense, Clint.
Well, I think there's a few more positives, and I Mills, very first few series, he was getting that bull rush going and just pushing the pile back. It kind of waned a little bit as the game went on, but I think, I saw some folks on Twitter that were like, "Oh man, I expected so much more from Riley Mills." Like, well, okay, I hear you, but guys, we've got to remember that at some point when Riley Mills is out there, he'll be, next to Leo or be next to, Byron Murphy. And, we got the news 2 days ago, I think now that, that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to retire after this year. So the thinness after, the ones did not play, and the thinness after even like the second rotation guys are out there, it's something they're going to have to address. And, whether that's, I don't think they'll do a midseason trade to address that unless they have injuries, but the talent beyond that's really not there. And I'm glad you brought up Eastern. There was a play that Gaines made a nice tackle for a loss. I think it was Gaines, but it was really Eastern that blew it up completely. So he did have that nice play. And I saw Dansby get mentioned in the comments too. He had a nice play on the edge down by the goal line also, where he just strung it out, but really held his ground and made a nice play. I'm not sure if that was on Milton or the running back that was out there, but Dansby showed up a little bit as well. So there was at least a few more single or examples or two plays from a guy. I got to say the linebacker play once we were in the third and fourth quarter, I did not think was very good. Just guessing at holes. A lot of times it seemed to me, and without calling dudes out specifically, because I don't
sounded like you're calling out Chaz Surratt. But
Aaron Smith too. I'm not trying to kill dudes that may or may not make this team, but and Chaz
Surratt will probably make the team just
as a special teamer. He stuck around the NFL for a while, but the level of linebacker play really fell off a cliff. But again, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, for me, Brandon, a couple of bright moments, but overall, not the most exciting game. There weren't that many big plays.
All right, Mookie, was it apparent on the defensive side why we went ahead and got Terrion Arnold this week?
Well, yes and no. I thought that Pritchard and Igbenogany were good. We know nothing of Julian Neal, really, because he hardly practiced in camp. He got injured early. And I had told Bryce Coots on the Hawkseye podcast on Friday that I suspect that Neal not being available for as long as he has been injured was somewhat of a factor. It's certainly not the main driving factor for signing Terrion Arnold, because you take a guy like Neal in the third round, he's somebody you would anticipate would be getting significant snaps right away, and he's just going to be so far behind. He's got so much catch up to do that it's going to take a bit for him to even get snaps in the regular season. So, but definitely once you got deeper in the depth chart, John Charles, as I said, brutal game. And then I think Fuller got beat a couple of times early in the third quarter. So Michael Dansby, I thought, and Clinton mentioned it, had some good plays. Even the touchdown that he gave up, he was in position. That was just a phenomenal catch by that Camden Brown guy. He had a nice night for Dallas.
A couple nice catches.
Yeah. Newsflash, everybody, replacing Reek Woolen is not going to be as easy as it looks. And Terrion Arnold may not be a direct replacement for Reek or anything, but he's certainly going to be in the mix along with Igbenogany and Pritchett. And Dansby and Fuller were going to be long shots to make the team to begin with. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll see if they can really push higher up. I know Dansby's had a good camp, but there's a difference between having a good camp and maybe making a case for the roster and having a good camp and suddenly you're cornerback 3. So we kind of saw that gap there.
Yeah. Shamar John Charles got picked on a little bit. Really, though, when I look over at the list of receivers for the Cowboys, it was 200 yards passing. And so that was generally against second and third string. So I'm not ready to freak out about defensive depth or anything. It's just, I think that if Arnold is going to compete for a spot, and we don't even know if he's going to end up on the commissioner's exempt list potentially, and we may not have him until his legal situation is all under control. So if it gets under control, so it's going to be a lot to watch there. I do hope that we get to see, a little bit of our third round cornerback at some point, Mookie. But it does take me though, while we're talking about cornerback, how about our corner, Clinton, that got paid a record-setting contract today, and that is Mr. Devon Witherspoon.
Yeah, so this is probably the best news of the day, even with the game being played, I'd say almost certainly. And if the Seahawks came out clean without injury, that'd be the second best news for sure. But look, we all knew Spoon was going to be getting his bag, and what I continue to appreciate about this team is that even with Hard Knocks happening and it being discussed a little bit on Hard Knocks, no drama, no hold-ins, no, he played every, he's out there every single practice, just doing his thing, balling out there like Spoon does. And he's excited on the sideline. Of course, he just made $100 million guaranteed today, which is really, really good. But look, they locked up another guy from a recent draft class. So you got JSN, highest paid wide receiver in the league for a bit. And you have now Spoon, highest paid corner in the league in the same exact draft. It's flowers to Schneider, but also how they handled this. Mookie, for me, it was always going to get done. There's no way an agent and a young man's walking away from, $130 million or so. It was, of course, going to get done, but I'm glad it's done. And there's not all this, like Gonzalez, who has the same agent, seemingly wants a different type of structured contract, but we're done. We're locked up. And now Spoon is here for. He's got 2 more years on this contract, and it's a 4-year extension. Do I have that right? Is he here for 6 more years now?
Yeah, and I think there's a void year tacked onto that. So, it spreads things out a little bit more. John Gilbert's over at Field Goals will be the cap experts to crunch all the numbers on Sunday. Certainly a lot more interesting than covering what we just watched tonight. But in terms of Witherspoon getting that extension, I was never worried. And even if it didn't happen this year, it's not like he's a free agent at the end of this year. They picked up his 5th year. So as you said, Clinton, that extension, much like JSN's, doesn't start until after the 5th year option.
Right.
So he is the highest paid corner in the league. And at the same time, that deal the bulk of that deal doesn't kick in until a couple years down the road. So the average over time is not 30 plus million in reality. So, but Witherspoon, he is that force multiplier, as has been one of the Mike Macdonald favorite phrases to say. He is the do-it-all. And for Christian Gonzalez, maybe he'll end up being the highest paid corner by like a couple $100,000, much like Jahmyr Gibbs got that extension right after Bijan Robinson did with Atlanta. Mm-hmm. But who cares? I don't think anybody's going to be championing, hey, we got the highest paid corner league. All I care about is that Devon Witherspoon got paid. He is so valuable to this team because he can do it all. He can cover, he can tackle, he can play the run, he can blitz the quarterback. He is a defensive head coach's dream, or really any head coach's dream, because of all the things he does on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm looking forward to seeing his stat totals and as far as interceptions and passes defense increase, because that's like the one thing that's missing is can we get some more picks out of Witherspoon, more turnovers, more forced fumbles, more sacks, because he does all these things so well that don't always show up in the box score, but might as well just add on to that. So he's more comfortably in the NFL's top 100 next year, as opposed to 107 with the players list this time.
That's right. Doodaddy in chat saying 101 million guaranteed. Good for him. Love it. Yokai Hawk saying can't wait for Spoon versus Gonzo week 1. And we've got Juana Dame 619 with a $4.99 super chat saying thanks for the live show. Love seeing Foster and Rochelle have big games tonight. Yeah, we did talk about Rochelle's big kickoff return, did we? And we can get to that too in a minute. I wanted to mention with Spoon, because you did bring up something, Mookie, that I thought was interesting. 26 years old right now, and he won't be a free agent until he's 32.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
yeah, the with that 5th-year option and the 4-year extension, it does seem like we're going to have Spoon for quite a long time. But yeah, how about special teams? I feel like we should call out Rochelle, because that 52-yard return, that was one of the more exciting moments in an otherwise game where there weren't a ton of exciting moments.
It's nice that, look, we were the best special teams unit in the league last year, probably by a good distance, and you pick it right back up. The Myers miss, and great. I don't really care that Myers misses a field goal at August 15th. I just don't. It'd be nice if we made it, but I don't care. It's not a big deal that it didn't. I thought the two best parts of the Rochelle, it was a punt return, correct? I think the two best parts of it were, well, just him going north and south, and also the announcer saying live, like, just go straight, just go straight, which was kind of cool too. And seeing the sideline Mookie explode, we don't hear a lot about Rochelle throughout at least I didn't, throughout mini camp and all that stuff. And he's not getting any glow up on Hard Knocks, but it sure seemed that the players know who he is, and we're ecstatic to see him make a big play. The drive fizzles out Mookie, but the legend lives on.
Yeah, it does. And the main reason he was brought on is because he was a very good special teams guy, very good kick and punt returner in college. So the fact that he was able to break one was nice for him. It's not just tape for the Seahawks, it's tape for another team in case he doesn't make this roster, which, if we're being honest with ourselves, is highly likely. But you always want to have those highlights moments. That's one of the good things of preseason, is when you see the starters, the ones who've got comfortable job security, just cheering on the dudes who are just trying to make their way onto an NFL roster, showcase their abilities. So yeah, special teams outside of the Myers miss. And look, it happens. He's not going to be automatic. I will say that the camp that I was at last week, I think the Wednesday practice, he was missing to the right quite a bit, but it was a windy day, so he might have just been kind of trying to battle the wind more than anything else. But as far as the return game was good, the coverage was excellent. I mean, Jared Ivey and Brady Russell combined for big hits on the opening kick return that Dallas had. TJ Harden able to recover that fumble. That was honestly one of the worst punt return decisions I think I've ever seen from that poor Cowboys dude. Luckily, it didn't.
Credit to Michael Dixon, though, for putting it down at the 1.
Yes, it would have been.
He's going for that 90 that Marshawn's got to get him on Madden.
Yes, he was going for that 90, but I think awareness was not very high for that Cowboys punt returner, and Seattle was able to pounce on it. Like, if you're at your own goal line, why are you picking it up when there's like 3 Seahawks in your face? So, but you got to be on the spot, and I would anticipate that the Seahawks are going to once again have one of the best special teams units in the league. They've very rarely had poor special teams over the last 10, 15 years. Really, it's like the end of the Brian Schneider era and the first year with Harbaugh, and a lot of that was really just D. Williams and Laviska Shenault were that bad. They corrected that.
Yes,
we're comfortable at returner, comfortable with our kicker, comfortable with the punter, comfortable with the coverage unit. So it's going to be a great team.
Yeah, we got Boclo 1251 calling out the broadcasting team, our Seahawks home broadcasting team. It sure is fun to hear Mike Robb and Mike Bennett both on the call, and Cliff Averill down on the sideline. Yokai Hawk saying, who had the worst day, SGC, Dallas number 21, or the Dallas punt return guy? Ooh, that's a tie for all three. Yokai Hawk also had a question about Jake Bobo and being targeted early and often. Where do you come out on that, Mookie? Because to me, it just seems like the idea, he's wide receiver number 4. So with wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 not out there, it kind of makes sense for him to be the more targeted wide receiver for Drew Lock in this group early on.
Heck, he's probably a wide receiver 5 when you add in Torrey Horton, because what was notable to me is that Horton didn't play. I actually thought that they would consider playing Torrey Horton a little bit in preseason, given his rookie year was truncated in such an unfortunate way. But the fact that they decided to hold him out of this game may bode well for where he sits on the depth chart, that he is, quote, an established starter at this point as a wide receiver 4. But, Bobo's also just coming back from injury. He missed a good chunk of camp with, I believe it was a hamstring issue. So it's also just to get him some game reps, and there's familiarity with him and Locke. And I think for Milroe, it's just to have somebody who's in that top 5 to have some comfort throwing to. And Bobo is a security blanket for all 3 quarterbacks. So He's very quarterback friendly as far as his ability to make tough catches. Not always to get open, but just to be there.
Well, I really want to thank everybody who joined us here live, including our producers, Ryan911, Carly Perkins, Yokai Hawk, who came in with the super chat, BMW22OZ, and Juan Dame 619. And we're going to be talking more Seahawks. Do you have a 3 in, 3 out? Is that in the cards this week, Clinton?
Potentially, yeah. I think there was enough of individual plays that I think stood out that we could do something to go one click deeper. I'm not sure it'll be a video one, but we could do it, Brandon. We'll do something fun.
All right. Well, we got stuff planned all throughout the week. And I really want to thank you, Mookie, for joining us for the post game. Anything coming up that people need to check out at fieldgulls.com?
Yeah, once I'm off this podcast, we'll be doing our winners and losers. And normally I'm a lot more thorough when it's the regular season and playoffs, but it's almost 9 o'clock already, so probably not going to be my maximum effort. But we'll have that. We'll have details of the Devon Witherspoon contract coming on Sunday. And, of course, we'll be doing some game review. We can't just burn the tape out of this one. So there'll be some All-22 review coming up with Alexandre Castro. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday. It's going to be dependent on when the All-22 footage comes out, because Alexandre is based in Brazil, so they have their All-22 in a different rights agreement, whereas all of us are having regular trouble logging into NFL Plus.
Yes. Well, really want to thank you again, Mookie, for coming on. I see in chat, it has been way too long. And so I do need to make sure that I invite you back on a lot more often this season. So we will look forward to that. And we will look forward to more games coming up this preseason. And I think with that, Clinton,
There's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.